Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are having a wonderful morning. So, today I got this Streets blog article here. That's right. So, remember, Eric Adams has decided to make Bedford Avenue less safe after some animated people in the area uh, decided that they didn't like the new protected bike lane there. However, the community wanted this bike lane, got all the elected officials, the community board in support of it. And Eric Adams, after installing the bike lane because it was protecting the people, there are a few incidents where um, the children getting off the bus, were hit. So it's important to note that. To be fair, however, the problem is that this actually makes the street less safe, and it makes it no less likely that children and other people will be hit by, well, now by cars and still by potentially by people riding their bike on that street. So I liked the bike lane design on this street because with the protected bike lane, with the parking protected bike lane, because what happens is the bike lane's on the side there, on the left side there, and then at the bus stop, it had some paint there that was supposed to denote a pedestrian waiting space. But the problem is there were so many cars parked all around it, you can't see when someone's coming out a lot of times quickly enough. I think what should have happened, instead of removing the protected bike lane, the city should have added rumble strips before and the bus stop and after, right after the bus stop, you know, area where the children getting off. So what that does is it slows the cyclists down, and I would advocate for the same for any cars, of course, but they'll be behind the bus. But I would have advocated for that instead. So basically, making it so that the cyclist has to slow down with the rumble strip instead of just going to a old configuration that was proven to be less safe. So you don't go backwards on safety when you see there's like slight tweaks that are needed to make the safety work. If what are we going to pull up the road every time someone gets hit by a car? No. So the same thing goes for the bike lane. In any case, so here we are. Streets blog, New Yorkers threaten legal action if Eric Adams makes Bedford less safe for cyclists. Brooklyn cyclists pledge to sue the city if they are killed or injured on Bedford Avenue after Mayor Adams makes it less safe. They're putting the mayor on notice. Cyclists and their loved ones are pledging to sue the city if they are killed or injured on the stretch of Bedford Avenue where Eric Adams is prepping to rip up 3 blocks of protected bike lanes. Signatories to the pledge promise to pursue all available legal remedies against the city and Mayor Adams to hold them accountable for preventable injuries or loss of life on Bedford Avenue. The pledge has over 200 signatures and counting. Transportation Alternatives and activists sent the pledge to City Hall as a letter on Tuesday morning. Adams is moving ahead with his plans to remove the protected bike lane after politically connected Brooklyn judge Carolyn Walker Diallo ruled that he could last week. Walker Diallo sided with the city's argument that changing the bike lane from a protected bike lane back to an unprotected bike lane did not constitute a removal under city law requiring notification of any such changes. The mayor's office told Streets Blog that his record speaks for itself, defended his decision as responsive to the community's unique needs and concerns. Okay, so here's where he's lying to you. So here's where he's trying to squeeze that lie in. So responding to the community, well, the community needed the protected bike lane in the first place because it was so unsafe. Previously, people were getting hit, and you know, well, that's the bottom line. People were getting hit by cars. Like, bikes are less dangerous than cars. Like, people don't want to. I feel like you have these like Democrats and Republicans who want to pick and choose when physics and when not physics on, set the scene, set the issue. But the bottom line is that a car hitting you is more dangerous than a bicycle. Period. End of story. That's the science. And here, what he's trying to say is that unprotected bike lane is going to be safer than a protected bike lane. That's ridiculous. It is not going to be, because what happens is now it's going to be double parking instead. And that was one of the issues that they were trying to get rid of because it creates blocked traffic. Like, the school bus can't get through the traffic because what happens is the cars are going to use the bike lane as additional parking. And with a protected bike lane, the cars can't double park. So what ends up happening is it makes the traffic flow faster, and it lowers the temperature in the room for people. So when they're driving, they're not as anxious because people do and will double park any chance they get. The rule is, if it fits, it sits. And so this makes everybody less safe. That means cyclists are going to swerve into the car lane because someone's parked their car in the bike lane. Then it's going to mean that cars can't get through because there's not enough room. That's called physics. So then they're just stuck there, and then it's going to back all the way up. So the best thing you can do is not allow the cars to do that and to have the protected bike lane, which will help enforce the traffic safety rules. What is needed on Bedford Avenue is a rumble strip on the bike lane before and after and during the bus stop. So that would solve the problem of slowing bikes down, a rumble strip, slowing bikes down. Also, a street with kids on it, I don't know, maybe a speed bump is necessary, before you get to the bus stop. So cars are on notice that they're going to be forced to slow down before the bus stop, because what if the kids got to get there to wait for the bus, right? So they're going to be like crossing the street potentially to get to the bus stop, all that. So in any case, Eric Adams just came up with the wrong solution. And I get it. He's trying to get reelected, but I think his time is up. And I think he should be trying to create a legacy for himself. Like, who knows? Like, maybe he comes back from the dead. People all of a sudden decide they like Eric Adams again. I mean, it happened to Donald Trump. So, like, but this is not the way to get people to like you. Like, I think the way to get people to like you is to make New York safe, not make New York less safe. and Eric Adams is making New York less safe. So, the pledge from cyclists represents a commitment to take legal action against the city, blah, 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 moves to knowingly make the roadway less safe. The New York Court of Appeals ruled in 2017 in the case of Turturro versus the city of New York that municipalities can be held liable for failing to redesign streets with a history of traffic injuries and reckless driving. A potential case surrounding an injury or death on Bedford could have been stronger, Beadle said, because the city already installed safety measures and recorded data proving the design was working before plans to revert to the unsafe design. I think the case has applicability, but like all legal cases, the devil is in the details. In this case, the city not only studied and came up with a plan, they implemented it, then gathered data proving that this new design made the street dramatically safer, and then chose to remove it. Supporters of the Bedford Avenue project see Eric Adams' decisions on Bedford Avenue as purely political, with his reelection on the line in November. Like I said, I don't think you can win with only 20% approval. You got to have more than 20% approval. This whole situation is extremely frustrating because it's very clear that this is more about the mayor placating the South Williamsburg voting bloc than it is about trying to advance smart policy and keep people safe. Alex Moreno, an organizer of the pledge and a volunteer chair with Transportation Alternatives, which has sued the city to stop the bike lane removal. The mayor is running a long shot campaign for re-election as an independent against the Democratic Party, Zohran Mamdani, and fellow independent Andrew Cuomo and Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa. After Wako Diallo initially blocked DOT from removing the bike lane until August 6th, attorney and former Brooklyn Democratic Party chair Frank Cedio intervened on behalf of two plaintiffs in Williamsburg's Hasidic community and sped up the case. He told Streets Blog after that the hearing that he took the case at the behest of rabbis in the upper echelons of the city. To Moreno, the Bedford Avenue situation is just the tip of the iceberg, with Mayor Adams, who has shown disregard for the lives of New Yorkers when it comes to street safety, but also immigration and housing, and standing up to Trump. He said, "This can sound kind of hysterical, but the mayor really doesn't care about the lives of New Yorkers." Eric Adams is willing to play ball with New Yorkers' lives if he thinks it helps him politically. There is a much larger pattern too, like how he's embracing ICE to terrorize immigrant communities. So, Eric Adams is a pay-for-play politician. I think that's his problem. That's why he got in trouble with the federal government several times before. He's been investigated a number of times. I don't think a guy that had to be investigated so many times is innocent. I think he might have gotten lucky and got away with it, which I don't agree with. This is why he has a 20% approval rating. People gave him a second shot, knowing that he might be corrupt. They were hoping that he wouldn't be corrupt while he was mayor and that he would advance safety in New York. And he hasn't been able to, he hasn't done that. He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it. His police chiefs are suing him over the corruption they experienced, his old police officers. And now you have residents suing him and activist organizations who, were generally positive about Eric Adams when he initially came into office. So he's just creating a lot of enemies to try and please a few rich people. I mean, look, regardless of what your left wing or right wing or whatever, we shouldn't be running our government this way. We should be like, we're New York. If we're a suburb, a sprawled out suburb somewhere, okay, maybe we don't have that many bike lanes, but we're New York City, the biggest city in America, the biggest GDP in America, and bike lanes, bike lanes. We need our protected bike lanes. The delivery workers, the Amazon workers, they are working hard for us, and we need to support them by having good bike lane infrastructure all over New York City, including Manhattan and Brooklyn and Bronx and Staten Island. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Make sure to hit a like button on the video and subscribe. We'll bring more of this and other content. Yeah. So, look, Eric Adams has got to do better. He's got 5 months left in office. Come on, man. Do better. Golly, you're embarrassing me.